Hey guys, Zen Cop here. This will be my second video blog, pog blog, blah, blah, blah. I don't really know what to call it because it's a video, but it's not because it's just a picture. For this one, I'm going to talk about a subject that may seem a little redundant, but the issue itself is at an all-time high and also very redundant, and that's the topic of suicide. A lot of things can surprise us in that regard, and things that we thought we would never have to worry about, we now ultimately do. And we like to assume we know what's going on with people who are close to us. I think that's an assumption that most of us, we don't like to assume. But in that case, I would safely say that I have a pretty good read on friends, family, coworkers, where if something was off, I would probably notice. However, that can change. For most people we care about, we assume they are okay because they are a part of our inner circle, and we assume that because they're a part of that circle, they are somehow exempt from experiencing pain or turmoil in that regard. And that strong relationship can oftentimes compromise our ability to assume, and then it overshadows our ability to inquire. And it's not that we don't care to inquire, it's more so that we assume we don't have to, based on the foundation that we have and that friendship that we've created over the years. We assume that he or she would come to us if there was an issue, or we would at least see the signs that would generate some cause for concern. But in the realm of life and death, regardless of the bond, assumptions are very dangerous. And I don't think that it's something that we take lightly, but it's one of those things where that can change pretty quickly. We can have a pretty dynamic paradigm shift in our life that might send us into a different, thought process or a different state of mind. Relationship issues, problems at work, problems at home, depression, anxiety, stress, self-harm, drinking. I mean, we could talk about all of these things that it doesn't take a lot of them to make someone a little unsteady in the realm of mental health. And oftentimes just verbalizing some of those frustrations is a really good way for others to understand. But the problem when it comes to verbalizing frustrations is the risk that comes with it. For the simple things, I could say, hey, I'm having a pretty messed up week. I had XYZ happen and it's just been super stressful. I'm really looking forward to the weekend, blah, blah, blah. The bigger things, or the more catastrophic things that could have ripple effects, those are the ones that they're going to make someone sort of second guess verbalizing those things to anybody, even someone that they trusted. And in the realm of suicide, how comfortable would you feel telling me or anyone else that you were thinking about killing yourself, or even bringing up that topic entirely? That's a topic that if it is on the table, it gets buried very, very, very deep inside you. And in most arenas, it's a taboo topic. And I don't think a lot of people in particular would enjoy having that discussion. And even treading lightly in that regard, the person on the other end of that conversation is going to have to make a very serious decision. And that could ultimately save someone's life. But for that person to have to think, oh my God, do I say something? Were they being serious? What's going to happen to them if I say something? And these are all very natural reactions, but there needs to be follow-up regardless of how it makes you feel. Because if someone is willing to tell you about it, even if it's vague, that minute amount of information they gave you was extremely difficult for them to put into words. And while they may have said the words very easily, sharing those words were probably one of the hardest things they've ever had to do. And they shared it with you for a reason. And they didn't come out easily. That person had to dig, move things around, and drag those words all the way up to the surface just to have them heard aloud. And if they're not heard properly, they're going to release that grip, and all of those words are going to fall back down, and they're going to fall back down even deeper than they were before, making them even harder to bring them up to the surface if the opportunity comes up again for them to verbalize something. And sometimes they'll fall so deep that they get lost. And that's very dangerous because some people will use dark humor. They will use sarcasm. I mean, pick your poison. I don't think I've seen a lot of people in certain arenas, especially in the workplace setting, being very honest about that. In cop world, there are going to be repercussions for verbalizing those words. And most cops will quite literally, they'll weigh out the options in their head. Am I going to get put on leave? Are they going to take my guns? Will I lose my job? Is everyone going to know about it? Will I look weak? Will people accuse me of faking it? If I get better, are they still going to think I'm crazy? Family. I mean, the list goes on, and it's safe to assume that most of those people will just shut the door on the topic entirely. And after that internal assessment, they would just move on. In their minds, and rightfully so, the risk far outweighed the reward, or so they thought. And every time you shut that door and you don't solve the problem and you shut the door over and over and over again, eventually you will find yourself locked inside that room with nowhere else to go. And when it gets to that point, it's not even a question. You have trapped yourself inside that room, and the only escape route is going to be death. And death is a one-way ticket. And in my findings throughout my career, I've seen countless suicides, and I've seen people kill themselves in all kinds of different ways. The only differentiating details between the suicides is how they did it and potentially how long they were alive before they actually died. And as the years went on and I saw more and more and more, the only truly consistent theme that I saw was that almost all the family members at some point said that they saw this coming in some way, shape, or form. And even if it was completely unexpected, in some strange way it wasn't. And in all of those scenarios, I heard the same three words over and over, and that was, I should have, and then they would explain themselves. And there was a lot of explaining because you could tell that the guilt and turmoil that they went through was now going to have to be logic for them. And that's no easy position to be in for anybody. But as we approach the holidays, which I do consider to be the choke point for suicides and also checking in on people, and when they sort of make their verbal clues a reality for everyone, I think it's very important that we take those very seriously. And there's a reason why this time of year is coined suicide season among those who work in public service. Most issues tend to arrive after the holidays, after they've come and gone. And that's an interesting spot because most people tend to focus on right now. And post-holidays, I've seen is when certain people, they realize that they have nothing, nobody called to verify their physical existence during a time when family and friends, they mean so much. And most people in that boat will not be proactive in seeking assistance, and they are waiting for a reaction on someone else's behalf. And they're waiting to be proven wrong, and more times than not, they're proven right. Nobody called, nobody checked in. As a nation, we're at an all-time high for suicides right now. The numbers are through the roof, and it doesn't really focus on a specific age group. Across the board, it's high. It's high among veterans, law enforcement, and a variety of other first responders. And statistically, we might be looking at the highest suicide rate in history as the nation. And why now? Why is there a spike? I don't know. I know that 2020 messed up a lot of people. I know that our mental health is sort of compromised, and we're trying to regain that traction. And a lot of the things that we deal with, the new trauma, we don't have anywhere to put it. Everyone has their own room, and everyone had to just pack things away in there day after day, week after week, month after month. And we quite literally have so much clutter to process that our brain simply can't do it. And we watch coworkers again and again and again shut the door, and there's not enough being done. And going back to the concept of assumption, I think a lot of us would rather assume than confront. It's normal to take the easy way out. And you're going to have to weigh out those options again of, do I say something? Do I do something? And unfortunately for that specific issue, there's really no way to get quantifiable data to say that, oh, these persons were, saved because of XYZ and they didn't kill themselves. No, we can stat suicides because that's a statable problem. And trying to say that there's a way to stat or to capture the data of people who didn't kill themselves, that just simply doesn't exist. So assumptions in that regard, I would say it's safe to assume that eventually you're going to save someone's life. You're just not going to know it. That person will. And if they ever tell you, great, but it's going to be a mystery, I guess. And as we do approach the holidays, I just want to say, make mental health a priority for you, for those around you. Despite many differences, we are all very much the same. Although we may feel that we are very different, that's not accurate. At the end of the day, we are all very, very linear in terms of how we operate as humans and how our brains work. And despite having this, have many differences, we're all very much the same. So I'm going to wrap it up. I do want to say that there are tons of resources in terms of getting assistance, and you don't have to think of this as an extreme, right? If you are experiencing some type of trauma mentally, there are ways to address it without having to go full tilt and making yourself feeling very exposed or vulnerable. And that's the thing. Getting ahead of it is the key. If you can identify the small things now, those small things are going to be able to be addressed and diminished. If you let them grow into large problems, it becomes very difficult for the brain to triage these things. So get ahead of it. Tell your friends to get ahead of it. Tell your family to get ahead of it. And eventually, I hope we see a decline. Like always, guys, I appreciate you listening. This is the second podcast I've done, and there will be more, I hope. Sound quality will get better soon. I just have to figure out the details, the inner workings, the behind the curtain. If you can hear that noise, that's my dog, who again refused to leave the room. You gonna say hi? No, he doesn't speak English. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Instagram at the Zen Cop, and YouTube, which you're already on if you're listening to this, at the Zen Cop. They're all the same. I don't really have any other titles. Thanks for listening. Hope the content gets better, and enjoy the rest of the week. I will hopefully have something again for you next week. And talk to you guys later. Thank you again for listening.